The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences only, so don't tell your parents! Listener discretion is advised.
You look at Keanu Reeves and you tell me he's old.
No, he's a vampire.
And Alice Winter looks pretty good for his age, too. He doesn't look that bad.
Yeah. No, but I honestly believe if Keanu Reeves came out and said, I am a vampire.
And it's like, we know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's definitely got a portrait aging for him somewhere.
Yeah, he's got a Dorian Gray portrait somewhere.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. My name is JD, and joining me is Mr. Matt.
Hi.
And joining us once again is Dustin.
Hey, everyone.
Kyle could not be here with us this week because he decided not to watch this.
Kyle got consumed by a giant robot.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Uncool fool.
Yeah. So this week on the show, we are talking about FLCL or Fooly Cooly or whatever the hell you want to call it. We're just going to be talking about the first season. We're not going to get into the newer season. We're talking about the old school.
JD, what are you talking about? There's only one season.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I am like, is there 2 more seasons of Fooly Cooly? I guess swear there was, but I can't find anything on it.
No.
I would like to. I haven't seen it, but I know Dustin has. I'm not sure if you have, JD, but I would like to touch on it a little bit at the end.
I've never seen it.
Okay. Yeah, we're talking about Fooly Cooly. I had slotted this in because while the anniversary happened in April, it is the 20th anniversary of FLCL this year.
Everybody,
yeah,
throw a party.
Yeah, in Japan it is, because the dub didn't actually arrive in the States until like August 2003, and that was the reason why I put it for an episode in August, because it's the 17th anniversary of the dub.
So it over the course of a year, it released in Japan, April 2000 through March 2001. It was an OVA. They released it, I think, 1 episode at a time, like 1 episode DVDs.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. That's insane that you could just release a show like that.
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of like,
this is back in the day when you could just release anime in just like really limited quantities and nerds would buy it.
Yeah, kind of like when bands release like singles or something. Kind of maybe the same sort of concept maybe, and especially with FLCL, it's kind of got that angle going for it. It's really music heavy. We'll touch on that later, but yeah, it was over the course of a year. It was released in 6 parts, and then in the States, when the dub came out, it was released over the course of like a week and a half. I think they did like 5 episodes over the week, and then they did the finale like the week after that.
I don't remember how it originally... It was so long ago, I don't remember how it originally aired. I just remember when I saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
It was the night after it first premiered. One of my friends, I was hanging out at my friend's house, and he was like, did you see this thing that was on Adult Swim the other night? And I was like, no, what? I was at that age where I was more into anime. These days, I'm not a super huge anime boy. But, oh boy, is this my... I don't want to just say this is my favorite anime ever, because it's one of my favorite things ever. Like
it was very formative for you.
Yeah, I would say it goes... Like, my very favorite thing is, like, Banjo-Kazooie and Rareware things, and then Fooly Cooly's right afterwards, and I think the gap between them grows smaller and smaller every single time I watch it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. So like, what was your kind of reaction like when you were first watching it? Like, it was just because when we were doing the music video episode, and you were kind of talking about like the first time you ever saw like a Gorillaz video. I think like when your first time you see FLCL, because a lot of anime at that point is just like, this is, I don't know. When I saw FLCL for the first time, it was just such unlike other anime that I'd seen. Like, I know it was on Adult Swim, so we were starting to get a lot of that really cool, like, or like on Toonami or whatever, you had like your Cowboy Bebops and your Outlaw Stars and your Lupin the Thirds and stuff. But like FLCL it stood out like in such a very particular way.
Yeah, it was huge not only for the people watching, but I think for Adult Swim in general. I think when I think of like the big animes that aired on Adult Swim, I think Cowboy Bebop and Fooly Cooly are probably the top two. And you know they've played plenty of anime over the years, but I think those are the two that made the biggest impression when they
yeah, just because they're just so unlike other series that were out around that time. They stood out. Like Cowboy Bebop's another great one, but it's different, for an entirely different reason.
exactly.
And yeah, definitely, I would say that FLCL was very formative for me too. I mean, the damn thing it's an OVA. It's only 6 episodes, but just in that short amount of time, it's like less than 3 hours to watch, and it's like, God, it sticks with you.
It's so densely packed. Like it's only 6 episodes, but so much happens. It's so much to unload, so much to think about. I did my best to. Every time I watch Fooly Cooly, I understand it a little more. But before this started, I was reading up summaries. I was reading up like wiki pages, just to get as clear an idea of the whole show as I could. And I still feel like I don't entirely get everything, but it's definitely more clear than it's ever been.
I feel like it's one of those. I feel like it's one of those things where maybe it's a lot of times when you say like style over substance, it's usually viewed as like a demerit. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like here, because it's so damn stylish, like it doesn't matter that that you might not understand the story or anything, just because it's such a treat to look at and experience, that it's like, you may not understand what it's actually about that well, but it's like, who cares? It's just
yeah.
So I feel like I kind of have to disagree on that point, and it's just for me personally. I've tried to watch this show a few times over the years, and
did you try to watch it when it originally came out?
I think I might have seen it a year or two after it came out. I know I watched it sometime in the early 2000s. Like I must have been in like middle school or like early high school when I watched it finally. But I've tried to watch it like several times over the years, and I to this day still do not fully grasp what this show is about. And while I like appreciate the amount of animation work that went into this, that whole not understanding the plot thing has been like a real me from wanting to like revisit this. Like obviously I did for the show here, but like on my own time, it's just like I just feel like I'm gonna come out confused again. Just like a lot, like you said, Dustin, a lot happens. It's very dense. But it's like there's so much happening, but I don't understand any of it. So that's like, just really hindered me from really getting into this. Obviously that's not to take anything away from you guys who clearly like unabashedly love this show, and
Yeah.
I get why, to some extent, why people like this show. I'm just thinking it just might be one of those not for me kind of things. But I'll let you guys go on.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. This ties into exactly what we're saying. So I was reading the wiki page for Fooly Cooly. It's not the best place to get all your information, but I wanted to have some notes going in, and one line stuck with me. Director Kazuya Tsurumaki responded to criticism of Fooly Cooly, stating, he said, comprehension should not be an important factor in Fooly Cooly. And I completely agree, because even if you don't get it, and like I didn't even get it for the longest time, even if you don't get it, it's just so cool.
Yeah,
the music is so good. The animation, the color, the atmosphere is like the perfect atmosphere. It's just mwah.
Yeah, I see. For me, like, I'll be the first to say that, like, to draw me in, all I really need is like an aesthetically appealing art style.
Mhm.
It's like it's a lot of my problem with. I think I'm sure I've said time on this show, other shows, whatever. But a lot of my problem with like modern anime is that I can't tell if you just showed me pictures from them, I couldn't tell any of them apart because they look so similar.
Yeah.
So if you could show me like a unique art style, that'll get me in. That's why I check out, whatever Studio Trigger is putting out these days. That's how I make a lot of my viewing choices when it comes to animation. But what keeps me invested in a show, a movie, or whatever is the story. And for me personally, if I am not understanding the story, I can't like get myself invested in it. So it keeps me from really, loving it to the extent that like if I understood what was going on. But if it's enough for you, then that's great, and I'm glad you're getting your enjoyment out of it.
Maybe we'll see if we can clear some things up for
Yeah,
you.
maybe.
So before we get like into the nitty gritty of like what the show is, I did kind of want to drop a couple production notes. Dustin Ray did mention about the director, but I did want to kind of talk a little bit about that. So the FLCL was co-produced by Gainax and Production IG or Production IG. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but I think a lot of people know like Gainax's name pretty well. They're mostly known for the Neon Genesis Evangelion, Gurren Lagann, Panty and Stocking.
How do you guys feel about Evangelion?
I've never seen it.
I watched it in its entirety for the first time when it came out on Netflix. Either it was early this year or last year. We did a whole episode about it. Go watch that. I don't exactly remember what I said. I just know my feelings right now are I understand it a little more than I do Fully Cooley. But it's one of those experiences like I'm not jonesing to do it again anytime soon.
Right.
I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes of it and did not care for it. I should really go back and watch it sometime.
I wouldn't mind checking it out myself someday. It's just one of those things I've never gotten around to. I do have friends that are really big fans of it, though. So
I will say one thing that I got that took away from watching Evangelion, it reminded me how much I hate extinction level endings. It just like
spoiler.
Fucking Evangelion's been out for fucking 20 years. But yeah, like the ending of Evangelion, and then it reminds me like the ending of Devilman Crybaby. That like shit just bums me the fuck out.
That's fair. Yeah, that's not for everyone.
That's another reason I'm not like itching to jump.
Yeah, it's like it's not fun. It's like it's just a slog to get through. And it's just depressing most of the time. Also, the fucking original last 2 episodes of Evangelion where it's just a psych textbook being read to you. Fuck that.
So yeah, as far as Evangelion goes, a lot of its DNA is present in FLCL specifically because, well, actually, before I get into that, I did want to touch on Production IG because they're the other half of who made this show happen. So they're mostly known for Ghost in the Shell and Tales of Symphonia. But back to the crew for FLCL, it was written by Yoji Inokido, who wrote for Neon Genesis and also wrote for like Sailor Moon and Revolutionary Girl Utena. And he also did a 3-volume novelization of FLCL as well. If you didn't understand the anime, I can only imagine what a fucking written version of it is like.
Yeah,
like,
dude, how did
there's
you
a manga
write this?
version. Because there's a manga version, I know that, but like
Yeah,
a novelization version, I'm just like trying to figure like how the fuck.
Yeah, I've read the manga and I don't remember if I still have my copies of it, but yeah, I'm just like watching this show and I'm like, how do you write any of this down? I feel like just storyboarding this is just stream of consciousness most of the time.
Right. Yeah, so then the director was Kazuya Tsurumaki, who he got a start, or he didn't get a start, but I think his most prominent thing in Gainax was he was assistant director on Neon Genesis, and then like I think he went on to go direct the first half of End of Evangelion, and then went on to go do FLCL, and then did some things here and there, but he went on to co-direct all 4 films in the rebuild, the rebuild of Evangelion series that they did recently.
Interesting.
So that's mostly what he's been up to, aside from doing FLCL. And I think he produced like Progressive and Alternative as well. I know he didn't direct those, but I know he had like a part in producing them. And then of course we talked about the music, but we do have to. I do want to pay special attention to the music of the show, because that's kind of what makes it for me. Is the score is done by Shinkichi Mitsumune, and then there are tracks from the J-rock band The Pillows in there. And I feel like FLCL is great, but I feel like having The Pillows on there just turns it from great into like just like, I don't know. I don't even know what word I want to use to describe it, but like I feel like it just enhances it so much. Like it's such a good addition to it, and it's because it's a thing that you don't really typically, at least in the anime that I've seen, and like just like cartoons in general. Like it's always interesting to see like when they use licensed music for something, but like here it's just, I don't know. It feels like it was written for the show, and like it wasn't, but like it fits that aesthetic and that vibe so well that you would think like it. I feel like when people think of The Pillows now, they can't not think of FLCL. They're just that intertwined now.
Well, I mean, I remember when they were advertising for the newer seasons, they part of it was sold that the fact they were having The Pillows come back and do music.
Yeah, and they went on to do some live shows. They played in LA, and that was actually me, Dustin, and Kyle went to when they went to go play in LA.
Amazing concert.
Yeah, that was.
And then you guys went to Disney World without me.
That was a whole. That's unrelated. That was a whole nother day.
Oh yeah, that was the second time I came.
Yeah. So yeah, for the Pillow show, it's special to me just because I know Dustin for like a long time, but that was the first time I actually got to hang out in person, and then that was actually the first time I ever met Kyle. We hadn't been friends before, and then we met there.
Yeah, that was also the first time we saw The Pillows in concert.
It was. It was,
and also the only time
so far. Hopefully we can do that in the future.
That's why I wanted to go so bad. So me and Kyle had been talking about hanging out for a while again, but I remember Gorillaz was going to be playing later that year too, so I think we were kind of thinking about that, but I just knew we had to do The Pillows. I thought Gorillaz will be around, but I think The Pillows, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime concert opportunity.
Yeah, because always for like foreign bands and stuff, like they're never always going to get out to the States. Like with Gorillaz, like even though there's been long stretches of time before they, where they played, like
they'll do it again.
Yeah, at some point, but like The Pillows, like that was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I'm so glad that we were all able to go. Because I mean, like for you guys, especially because I was able to get a ticket when they actually went on sale, but you guys ended up with like scalper tickets, yeah?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but hey, you got to go.
Yeah, as long as we got to see him.
Yeah.
About The Pillows. I feel like that goes a long way to sell the atmosphere of the show, and I think the atmosphere of this show is just unparalleled in anything else ever made. And I think The Pillows are a big part of that. The Pillows music, the colors, the scenery, and everything. We'll get into my favorite scene later. I don't know how we want to do this. If we just want to go like episode by episode, or just whatever points we want to throw out. Well,
I feel like we could
I'll
just
bring it up.
I feel like we don't. It's not necessary to go episode to episode, just because. Like
I'm fine with the general conversation because I don't even know where to begin.
I feel like you can give a general gist as to what the plot is about, and then it's more the show is kind of it's kind of strung along with just some really cool scenes. So like talking about like the cool scenes that happen in the show is more like and I mean it's hard to talk about all of them because I mean it's just filled with like very iconic. So, like I just rewatched all 6 like earlier today, and it was like I had goosebumps the entire time because it's like I watched FLCL when it originally came out, like when they were doing the weekly episodes. There was a time years later, I think maybe when I was just getting out of high school, where like I watched all 6 back to back to back to back to back, and then it's been such a long time since then. I haven't rewatched FLCL at all since then, and so just to re-experience it again after so long, and just like remembering so much of it, and yeah, it was just like it was very cool.
Yeah. I love Fooly Cooly so much. I try not to overdo it. I think I watch it at least twice a year.
Oh wow.
Last year I watched it on my birthday. My friends were like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to watch Fooly Cooly."
Hey, that's fair. I mean, it's your birthday. You should get the call. That's the reason why whenever my birthday rolls around, I always make everyone watch the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah. If it's your birthday, fuck what everyone else wants.
Yeah. I want to watch John Leguizamo, Bob Hoskins, and Dennis Hopper, and you want to watch really good anime. I think we both have valid choices.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about the production a little. Let's get into the show itself. Some characters, some plot points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the show opens with one of my favorite scenes in the whole run. Just Naota talking with Mamimi in the field, and it's playing "One Life" by the Pillows, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
Of all the Pillows songs, that might be the one that makes me feel the fuzziest inside. It's probably not my top favorite, but it's probably top 5.
As far as like fuzzy feelings from a Pillow song, I always feel like whenever I listen to "Beautiful Morning with You."
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
That one's really good.
I feel like I didn't used to like that one that much, and just recently I started like really liking it.
Right.
Because, like, I love the Pillows, but there are a couple songs in the soundtrack where I'm like, not my top favorites. And I actually think it's the more intense, like, fight scene songs that are not at the top of my list.
Really? Oh, so stuff like Advice and
Yeah, they're still great, but they're just not my go-tos.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like the Pillows are such a good choice for the show because they play so many different like, I mean, it's obviously it's all rock music, but like, yeah, they're able to evoke certain feelings within their songs that fit the scenes that they're paired with so well that it's like
no matter what the tone is, they have a song for it.
Yeah. And part of me is wondering, like, because I know, or I don't know for a fact, but I feel like the anime just like it didn't have a manga before, right? It was just the anime.
Yeah, it was the anime first, and then I got a manga adaptation afterwards.
So I'm kind of wondering now, like, I'm sure there must be interviews about it out there, but I'm wondering if they did FLCL with the Pillows songs in mind, because that happens like a lot with like cartoons where they'll have certain, like when they're in the production and when they're like storyboarding, that sort of thing, they'll have placeholder songs to sort of like evoke a certain feeling of the scene, and then like they'll use different tracks later that are produced in house and stuff. But I'm wondering now if Gainax and them like did FLCL to the Pillows and then just got the rights to them, or if like I kind of wonder how that went.
I'm not sure.
I would be willing to bet that it was made with the Pillows in mind. I can't say for sure, but especially that big climactic scene in the last episode where it's
Last Dinosaur.
No, I Think I Can.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that scene is just so like perfectly choreographed to that song. Like it plays the whole song and the scene ends right when the song does.
Yeah, so then at that point, I'm wondering, like, I wonder why, or I wonder who brought up the collaboration in the first place. Like, if I was the director, or maybe it was like Gainax or some, the heads or something. Because, like I said, it's very unconventional to have licensed music and stuff, or at least around the time, from what I can recall. And so, yeah, I wonder like who talked to who and who made what happen and like in what order to like have it happen like that.
Yeah. Well, whoever had the idea, good job.
Yeah, A+.
So yeah, I can see why this show would be confusing to some people.
Yeah.
So there is like an actual plot going on in the show, and that on its own is fucking crazy and insane and hard to follow.
I
But it
feel
gets
like
even,
I don't know. I don't know. Just because I watched all 6 like just now, I feel like I can give a very fair summation of it, even though it still probably wouldn't make sense.
yeah, like I get it now. I get it now more than I ever did. Like I think so it's been out 20 years. I think for at least like 10 or 15 years of that, I was just content in not knowing what the fuck was going on or what it all meant.
Yeah.
And then just like within the last few years, every time I watch it, I start piecing together more and more. And part of me likes that I don't really get it all. Part of the appeal of it is that, oh, it's this crazy, mysterious thing. Maybe I don't want to actually understand all of this.
Now, is that the reason why you think a lot of people didn't jive with progressive and alternative?
I think there's many reasons why people didn't gel with those.
Because I always wondered
I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself. But
yeah, well, okay, we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I always
Yeah.
wondered if that was gonna kind of because I mean, yeah, even the little bits of story that you do get from the original run of FLCL, it's still a lot of it is still very mysterious because it's not really elaborated on like in a very detailed way.
yeah, the one guy in the show that seems to know what's going on, Commander Amaro, is that how
Yeah.
it's pronounced?
I think so, Emero.
He's like the only guy who seems to know anything that's happening, and even he only has like a limited understanding, and like some of it's just like wrong. Like he says, Haruko wants to save Adamus because she's in love with him, and I think part of it is open to interpretation, but
Yeah.
I think if I were to make the call, I'd say she just wants his power and that he thinks she's in love with him.
Yeah, and I feel like just from what I've read about what the sequel series are about, I think that's something that they do touch on. And like that's another one of those things where it's like anytime that you do a sequel series to something that's been, I don't want to say dead and buried, but something that's been finished for like a long time. And even this, like FLC was not originally meant to have a sequel series or anything. Like it was just 6 episodes and then done. I don't think they ever gave any
little package.
Yeah.
And now it has 2 not so perfect little packages hanging off of it like a hangnail.
Right. Yeah, and
we'll
it's
get
just
into that later.
yeah, and I feel like that's always going to be a problem for things that are coming back, and it's just I think you're always going to have trouble living up to the original.
Yeah, pretty timely time to talk about that with all the
God, with
revivals announced.
everything's getting fucking revived and rebooted, and God, it was kind of exciting for like a little bit, and then it just kept on going. I mean, God, what was it just last week? Hey, Comedy Central's doing new Ren and Stimpy, and I'm like, who asked for this?
Yeah.
We already brought Ren and Stimpy back, and it died.
Yeah, did we not learn anything the first time?
Did I ever? I don't think I've ever talked about that on the show. Just to go on a little bit of a tangent, but I do want to get it on the record. The very first bit of hate mail ever sent on the internet was towards John Kay.
Wow.
When I was a very little kid, and my dad encouraged it. He actually helped me write the letter to send to him.
That's hilarious.
I think we went on like the Spumco website or something, or like the adult party cartoon is awful. Please go back to the way it used to be. Blah blah blah.
We're going to do an episode about Adult Party Cartoon, right? That's a 6-episode OVA.
You know what? I mean...
Dustin, when's your birthday?
October.
What?
October. It's coming up.
All right. Well, we're doing a thing this year, apparently, where everyone's birthday gets to pick whatever they want to review. So if you're really jonesing for it, maybe we can make that happen.
Well, see, the thing is, if you had waited to do this episode, this would have been my birthday pick. But now we get to do Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon.
We'll see.
We'll have to talk about that later. But back to FLCL, a good show.
Yeah, a very wonderful show.
Yeah.
So yeah, the show has its own plot going on, but it's also broadly about growing up, about maturity, about becoming an adult.
Yeah.
Shrouded in metaphors, symbolism. Again, not 100% clear on every single little thing, But this show really is one of those shows where like you watch it once, you say I don't get it. You read the Wikipedia article, watch it again, and you say now I kind of get it.
And every other time you rewatch it, you just garner a little bit more and more.
Yeah, I feel like I'm this close to cracking the code, but like I said, I don't know if I want that code necessarily cracked.
Yeah,
I just want to see Dustin with like one of those cork board with the string and stuff, just trying to piece together the plot of Fully Cooley.
Look, I'll say this much: I watched through all 6 episodes, taking long lists of notes for every single episode. Because of all the things I wanted to sound like I knew what I was talking about, this was the one thing on this show I wanted to be like, oh yeah, I know this.
This is
But
what you've been waiting for your entire life.
Yeah, but this just isn't the show you do that with.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, so the first episode starts with Naota talking about Mimi, and then that's when he meets Haruko, who smashes him in the head with a guitar.
After hitting him with the Vespa.
Yeah, he gets hit by the Vespa first, then a guitar.
A bass guitar.
Yeah, and that hit to the head opens up an NO channel in his head, which I'm sure we all know what that is. No need to explain.
Sure.
Basically, it just means like, I think, what was it? The left and right centers of his brain like worked in tandem to create a portal that the monsters come through, right?
Basically. So the point is, Haruko is looking for someone with good NO because she's trying to quote unquote rescue Adamus from Medical Mechanica.
Which is the company behind the giant iron in town, right?
Yeah. Medical Mechanica, I think, is the one thing that's like maybe a little too vague and mysterious to me.
Yeah, like
I'm not.
They mention it, but like I still don't understand like what they do. They're just there.
I had read that was something that they touched upon in the other series or the sequel series, but you would be the one that would be able to tell us about that.
So, Medical Mechanica. Well, I'm gonna be completely honest here. I have not watched season 3 of the new Fully Coolies. In season 2, I dropped about 3 episodes in. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you've seen more about it than we have.
Yeah, I don't want to act like I'm an expert on the newer seasons when I just couldn't take it. But.
Right. So, I don't know. I feel like maybe that's something that we can revisit in a future episode because I don't know. Well, I mean, even though everyone seems to dislike it, I would still like to eventually check them out. Like I've been putting it off just because I have been a little wary of it potentially tainting my relationship with FLCL, but I feel like I don't know. Maybe that isn't something that can happen because I feel like I mean. You're aware of it and you've seen like only 3 episodes, but I mean, like, do you feel like it tainted your relationship with the series at all?
No, not at all. It's so easy to just pretend like those didn't exist.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, then there you go.
Well, because they came out like so long after, like 18 years after the original. It's like, okay, well, I went this long without this ever being a thing. I can just go back to acting like it's just one season.
Yeah, exactly.
But
everyone out there.
Said,
if you feel like, something that had a sequel that came out and you didn't enjoy it, just pretend it's not canon.
Yeah, exactly. It's that easy.
Yeah.
And you don't have to like flood message boards saying they should be ashamed for making this.
Yeah,
it's just so easy to just not even acknowledge them.
Exactly.
And I think the first season of Fully Cooley is so good. It's so timely. Like I was flabbergasted that this was made in 2000. It was,
it was probably produced in 1990. Yeah.
It holds up so wonderfully. It looks so good. Other than not being widescreen, I would not be able to tell this was not made today.
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, because I think every other time that I've watched FLCL was like in the quality that it was on Adult Swim, and then this is the first time I'd seen it like in HD, and it was like unreal to watch because it's just like, yeah, if I had never seen FLCL before, and aside from it not being widescreen, if you had told me that it came out like this year, I would have believed you.
Yeah. So, this first episode is more just setting things up. Haruko comes into Naota's life. She's looking for an NO portal. That's why she says, your head's the only one that works, is she's tried it on other people. She's tried it on his dad.
Yeah.
Naota's the only one with an NO portal that like really works. And she's trying to get Adamus from Medical Mechanica through that portal in his head. So to her, Naota's just kind of a tool to get what she wants.
But I feel like over time, you know, as with anything like that kind of deals with that, with anything where like, you know, somebody is just kind of using somebody else, I feel like maybe it's not Stockholm syndrome is not what the term I'm thinking of, but it's like, you know, you build a relationship. So I feel like I feel like whatever Haruko felt for Naota after it was all said and done was definitely real.
I definitely agree. I feel like maybe even through most of it, he was just like nothing to her. But I think definitely by the end, she. Well, it especially ties into Amuro, because his whole thing was he had an experience. He had like almost the same experience with Haruko a long time ago when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And you know, Haruko doesn't like this guy. She thinks he's pathetic and stupid and lame. But you see, she has a bit of a tenderness for Naota by the end.
And that probably due to just, you know, him being a kid, because she does bring that up a lot too. Like she is just a kid, and you know what? Part of me was kind of hoping that when they announced doing like a sequel to FLCL, like part of it was me hoping like it might be a prequel or something, because I kind of actually would have really liked to see maybe a thing with Amuro and Haruko to see like how that might have all gone down, and to
That
see
would have been interesting,
or to even see like just the kind of like what Haruko's or Adamus's like whole deal was, you know, that sort of stuff. But again, it's like it's one of those things where it's definitely not necessary. But I feel like when they announced it was going to happen, I think everyone was sort of getting ideas about what it could potentially be about. So that was always a possibility that I always thought would have been a cool route for them to take.
So, this episode sets up a lot of stuff. It shows you Naota's family. It lets you know that his brother is off playing baseball in America
with an American girlfriend.
Yeah, that's another thing. Mamimi. So this kind of gets more into, you know, they explain it more in episode 2, but Mamimi was saved from a fire by Naota's boyfriend. All of the articles I read say that.
You mean Naota's brother?
Yeah. All the articles I've read say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend, Mamimi and Naota's brother. But to me, it comes across as Mamimi kind of felt like he was her boyfriend. Maybe he was not that, you know, actually attached to her. Because he just goes to the U.S. and gets an American girlfriend. I don't think it comes across as like he's cheating on her. I just think it comes across as like he's like, oh no, she's not my girlfriend.
Yeah. I always took it as just she's just like infatuated with him and like, oh, he's my boyfriend, but he has like little to no relationship with her. Like she's just kind of like a weird, crazy person.
Yeah. Especially when you take into the context of him saving her from the fire and stuff. Like, yeah, it just seems like, and I don't know, maybe that's because and it's always this way with like when stuff gets localized for dubs and stuff. I know they had to change like a lot of stuff because the original is filled with like a ton of references to stuff that is like only in Japan. Like the one specific reference that I know that they changed was there's a bit in there when they mentioned like, oh, there's a vending machine that still has Crystal Pepsi, and like that was originally like they mentioned a soda like that's only in Japan, and so that was something. But I feel like a lot of I don't know, it happens with a lot of other anime, so I could definitely see it happening here. I wonder if like some context for like certain interactions or like character relationships and stuff might have been interpreted a little bit differently.
It's possible. I mean, if that's the case, they at least did a great job of still making it all fit together.
Yeah, for like a Western sensibility, I think like we definitely get an idea of like, yeah, how that is interpreted. Yeah.
Let's talk about Mamimi and her relationship with Naota.
Yeah, so she kind of, I feel like because his brother left, like she just kind of views Naota as like this maybe not next is not the right word for it, but I feel like because he's his brother is so closely related that I feel like a lot of her feelings are just sort of like she uses the term like her she's just going to overflow, you know, like with emotion, and it's just I feel like a lot of that's related to with Naota too, just because of the relation.
Yeah, like she is just kind of using him as like a comfort toy, basically.
Yes.
Like getting her feelings out with someone who's close enough to the person she likes.
Right.
And so that's why she's always making moves on him, you know, closest thing she's got. And she calls basically everyone she kind of has affection for by she calls them Takun.
Takun. Yeah.
Yeah, because shit, what's Naoto's brother's name? I wrote it down, but Tosku, I think.
I think so. Tasuku.
Yeah.
Tasuku. Yeah.
So her nickname for him was Takun, and so she just calls like anything. She calls Naoto Takun. She calls the cat Takun.
She calls the robot
at the end. So yeah, Mamimi is a very sad character. People are leaving her. She's homeless. She's a fucking bum. She has to wash her clothes in the river. Her one pair of clothes she has. And so she's losing control of everything in her life, and Naota's kind of like the one thing she can have control with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you see she's kind of like happy, kind of in a better mood when she's hanging out with Naota, and then whenever he's not there, she's just like miserable. She's always smoking. She looks so like ragged and run down.
Yeah. Speaking of smoking, I think that one of my favorite shots in the show is like that bit of her with the cigarette, and it says like "never knows best"
In the first episode on the bridge.
Yeah, I've always really
one.
liked that screen cap.
This first episode is full of so many great scenes, like right off the bat. Like the manga scene, of course, is a classic.
It's so good that they bring it back for the last episode.
Yeah. Well,
So, okay, speaking of the
kinda.
manga scene, I was talking with JD about this before we recorded, but because he has the manga, and so I was always wondering how they handled the manga scenes in the manga.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if like they just straight up reuse
They turn
like
into a fully animated anime.
or I was wondering if they did it in the style of the anime, like, you know, just have like, you know, photo paper in there with like screenshots from like the anime.
Like one of those like cinema comics that just takes screenshots and
Yeah,
puts text
yeah,
bubbles over them.
exactly.
That'd be neat.
I always thought that'd be a funny thing to do, but I don't know if they actually did, you know, what they did. But
Yeah, I don't remember.
that manga scenes is really funny. Just like, and another thing about it too is just like when I was talking about like how unlike other anime it was, because I think every episode, or at least almost every episode, has these stylistic shifts where like they do stuff like that. Where so this and the last episode had like the little manga scene, and then like in the second episode, like the style switches entirely, and I don't know I know it's supposed to be emulating like something specific, I believe, but I can't put my finger on it.
I forgot to look it up and note it down, but I knew it looked like familiar.
Yeah,
it's so weird because it changes so much.
Exactly.
In that
then like in the fifth episode, they have like there's a lot of references to Lupin the Third, but they have like a little bit in there where they're like actually emulating like a bit of the intro. But then there's like the bit in there where like they just straight up do like a South Park scene, which is so bizarre.
There's a reason for that. Do you know what the reason is?
No, I don't.
So this one I kind of figured out before I was like looking into it, looking up notes on it and stuff. But when Amuro is talking on the phone, when he's being Mr. Big Serious Guy, it has the big bold lines. It's like this cool angle.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away to South Park style when he's being really immature. He's talking to the hairdresser, saying like, "Oh yeah, make my hair look like this. Really cool."
Is that candy? I want a sweet one.
Yeah, he wanted to. He's saying how he wants to look cool when he sees Haruko again. Right. So when he's acting really immature, it switches over to the South Park style.
Okay, I can definitely. Okay, well, like South Park and immature, I can definitely see the connection.
Yeah. I like that this show references so many, like, it references South Park a few times. But, you know, there's also references to, like, they mentioned Tom and Jerry in an episode. And, you know, a lot of it comes down to, you know, localization. But
Yeah, totally.
Tom and Jerry, I thought I heard, is very popular in Japan, so maybe that was just in the original version.
Yeah, maybe. Hard to say.
How do you guys feel about Haruko?
I love her.
She is very wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a shithead. She's awful, but she's great.
I think the majority of people that have watched FLCL have at one point or another, or still do, want a yellow Vespa.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely still, I have a person I was in a band with once who has like an old 70s like or 80s like yellow Vespa. And I told him, if you ever want to sell this thing, here's my number. Give me a call whenever. I don't care if it can't run. I just want to own it. And I feel like
just write a number down on this paper.
Yeah. I feel like maybe she might have partially subconsciously influenced my decision to become a bassist as well.
I was gonna ask about that, because you being Mr. Musician Magic Man, you probably know like all these guitars they're using. To me, they're just all guitars. But
to me, they're all, guitars and stuff too. I'm not that particular about like the years and stuff. Like, I could probably see models and stuff, but like, yeah, no, nothing specific. But I feel like that was definitely, because again, we're talking about how this was formative for a lot of people. I feel like because of how dense the references, like, I mean, there's that whole one scene where she's just rattling off like a bunch of like recording artists and bands and stuff too. She's just like dressed like Elvis.
I love that scene.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe parts of her definitely, and I mean, like, yeah, Haruko's cool. I've always just really enjoyed her character, like, and especially with the dub, because she's voiced by your favorite Carrie Wallgren.
Oh, we're getting into this, huh?
I mean, listen. I mean, was that not like your first like?
I think this was like her first job, like her first like big voice acting gig, and it's probably her biggest and most iconic to this day.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, because her performance as Haruko is just okay. Actually, of the 100 times you've seen FLCL, has any of them ever been with the original Japanese audio?
No, I should watch it sometime, but every time I sit down and watch Fully Cooley, I'm like, well, I want to watch the one I know. I want to watch the one I know and like.
Exactly. And I feel like maybe that's due to the fact, because of how dense the visual image of the show is, that for an audience that's watching it, they would rather watch it in their own language. I do tend to want to watch stuff in its original language, like, at least first, but because of nostalgia, because a lot of the like anime, if you're going to rewatch it, like if you experienced it first with like a dub instead of a sub, you probably, like, I think a majority of Ghibli movies, like, I'd rather watch with the dub than the sub, just, or maybe not a majority, but like, stuff like Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle, because I watched it as a kid with the dub. Like, I do enjoy the dub, and like stuff with like FLCL or like any other dub that was on Adult Swim, like for like Cowboy Bebop or Outlaw Star or anything like that, like, because it's nostalgia, it's a strong thing.
Yeah,
but also it helps that the dub is pretty good. I feel like this is still like this is late 90s, like early 2000s, so like some of the line reads in this are very kind of like what you think of when you think of that era of like anime dubs and stuff. But I still really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I will say, in terms of like, dub, sub, whatever you want, anything Trigger puts out, I have to watch in English. Like when I watch Promare, I cannot imagine trying to watch that movie in Japanese, because there's so much going on visually that I could not read subtitles and watch that movie at the same time.
You don't want another layer you need to go through.
Exactly.
That was actually the point I was trying to get to, and I totally lost the plot. I was where I was trying to arrive at, but that was what I was trying to get at.
This dub's great too. It has I think all of the voices match the characters very well.
Yeah.
Barbara Goodson is Nauta, better known as Rita Repulsa on Power Rangers.
I just learned that today, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I must have read that at some point, but wow, it's still surprising to hear. Like,
did you guys see that PlayStation State of Play the other day?
I caught little bits.
So, did you guys see the Bugsnax trailer?
Oh,
I skipped over it because I have no interest in Bugsnax.
I can't say for sure, but the character in the trailer sounded a lot like Nauta.
Maybe it's Barbara Goodson.
Yeah.
Look that up.
we-
JD, you're not going to play Bug Snacks?
I don't
think-
plan on it.
I think this podcast just went in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
The rest
Now
of
we
this
have pro-
podcast is about this.
It's now pro Bug Snacks and anti Bug Snacks.
God.
We already mentioned Carrie Wallgren as Haruko does a wonderful job.
Mhm.
Went on to do so much. Like, I don't really hear Barbara Goodson in that much. She's in a lot, but I don't really notice her. Carrie Wallgren's in like every cartoon nowadays. She's in
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
it's-
much.
She made that transition from like doing anime dubs to like doing a lot of cartoon and video game stuff. So, and
Yeah.
that's just a lot of things. A lot of the time that happens with like dubbing voice actors specifically. It seems like, you know, sometimes you're either just going to stick to doing like a lot of anime, or you'll go
Mhm.
on and do like tons of other stuff after that. And I feel like a lot of that probably has to do with like voice actors guilds and unions and that sort of thing,
Mhm.
Yeah,
or like where you live.
I want to say that when the show first came out, Kari had to use an alias.
I could believe
I
that.
could be wrong.
I could believe
looking
that.
in the credits, I know Mamimi's voice actress uses an alias. She's voiced by Stephanie Shea. She's in a lot of anime stuff. She's great. I don't know her from a whole lot, but she's wonderful in this, and I know she's in the new Crash Team Racing remake.
Oh yeah.
She voices multiple characters in that, and I'm like, that's Mamimi from that show I like.
Right.
Those are the only voice actors I have listed. Oh, there's also Melissa Fawn as Naota's friend Nina Mori,
Oh,
and I listed her since she's Gaz in Invader Zim.
she's also Ed on Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
also Rika from Digimon, whose autograph I have on the wall right here.
She's
Wow.
also Dendy on OKKO. Melissa Fawn's done a bunch of great characters.
Yeah.
I love her. I didn't know she was in this. That's crazy. I didn't even pick her
Yeah.
out.
Oh, I right away I was like, that's Gaz.
Her range is like surprisingly, like, you think with the characters she voices, it would seem very similar, but I feel like all of her characters do sound distinctly different from each other,
I
even
think
though some of them
part it-
share characteristics.
Yeah. I think part of it is also she's another one that's not in like a whole lot. You don't hear her super often, so I feel like you don't like it's not like Tom Kenny where you hear him in everything. You're like, there's good old Tom again.
You don't hear him in anime, I don't think.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any animes Tom Kenny's been in.
Probably like some early like 90s stuff. Maybe he did under an alias.
I know. Do you guys remember that anime Zatch Bell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That had a lot of like just regular cartoon voice actors. Debbie Derryberry is like Zatch in that. Richard
Debbie
Horvitz
Derryberry
in
is the other, because you're talking about who is it that was in was it the Crash kart racing? Like, she voices every other character that wasn't voiced by her, right?
it. Yeah,
And Debbie Derryberry, like,
she voices Coco. She voices Nina. She voices Pasadena. Pasadena is the only one I don't really like that she voices because it just sounds like Southern Coco.
right.
But yeah, I always wonder like, I wonder if there's any other animes out there that just use like a ton of anime or cartoon voice actors.
Right. Yeah, no, not anything that come to mind like right off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. But moving back to Fooly Cooly. So
Right.
yeah, the first episode is just more about setting things up. You see Haruko hit Naota. You see the big robot fight at the end. It's a good robot fight. I love Conte's design.
Yeah, we do you still have, like, we were talking about the pillow show earlier, but we ended up getting some freebies from the merch booth there. There's like a little patch of Conte's head.
The only thing they had not relating to the newer season, so I was like, give me.
Right. Do you still have yours?
Yeah, definitely. I would I'd take it with me everywhere I go every day.
I was just one of those things where like I collect like, or I don't collect, but I do have like patches and stickers and pins and stuff, but I never really put them on anything because I always feel afraid to commit something to like,
Yeah.
But
I just
I still
recently got a book that I just put stickers in. A little sticker book.
Oh, that's Actually, not a bad idea.
Yeah, just so I can be like, okay, so I am putting these stickers on something, but it's something that they'll be good for, and I can.
Yeah, that you'll be able to look back on, and without having to like, oh, if you put it like on an old, like a fucking motorcycle or something, and you crash that thing, you have to trash it or something, like, oh, you're losing that sticker. That's the biggest loss of all.
Exactly. Coming back around to Fully Cooley, I actually have, that P sticker on Haruko's Vespa?
Yeah.
I have that on the back of my car. Yeah, I'm pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I know about this little obscure anime. Do you guys know why Conte switches back between blue and red?
I do not.
I mean, I always felt like, was that, you mean just like a design decision, or do you mean like in the context of the show?
In the context of the show.
I always felt like it was because whenever Naota gets eaten up by him and like is piloting him, he's like channeling the power of Adamisk.
That's exactly it.
Oh, it is. Okay, good. I'm glad I was right.
Yeah. So in the first episode, he's just being, piloted by Adamisk. But then when Haruko comes and bashes him on the back of the head, that kind of breaks him.
Yeah.
And from then on, he has to like eat Naota in order to gain Adamisk's powers.
Yeah. Which I always I always was a little bit confused on how that works. I wasn't sure if maybe like did Naota or Naota like accidentally take his power, and that's the reason why he's able to channel it.
I think it's because of the NO in his head. He eats Naota, and then he like pulls Adamisk out of the portal in his head to kind of possess Conte.
Right. Okay. Because there's I think they only show that like in the first episode, but there's the bit where he gets eaten, and then like they do like the plug like in the back of Naota's head, and like, okay, exactly. So it's kind of like Adamisk is piloting Naota, who's piloting Conte.
Basically, yeah, he's kind of like a power core for Conte.
Which probably explains why he doesn't remember whenever he gets eaten by him, like what actually transpires.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, then the first episode ends just this is how it is. Haruko's part of their life. They have a robot now. I like that throughout the show, Conte's just used for like errands.
Yeah, just like doing laundry and getting deliveries and stuff.
Yeah, Haruko makes him get drinks. The grandpa makes him get Hustler for him. That's great. Yeah, I'd love to get like a statue of Conte, but those are like several hundreds of dollars.
We'll do GoFundMe for you.
Yeah, you can get the Funko Pop for $10. So.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they did fucking Funko Pops for FLCL.
That's so
Funko
weird
Pops and everything.
Yeah, but it's so weird to me that they did Fully Cooley just because I wouldn't say it's like obscure by any means these days, but like just the fact that this anime is being referenced by a company in the US, like even if it's just Funko.
Well, and I mean, Funko cool specifically does like really nerdy shit too, so it's not too far-fetched, but definitely more far-fetched than you would originally think.
Yeah, and most of them still look awful. They're still mostly god-awful.
Anything that has like a human face. I feel like the Conte one probably
works perfectly because he's just a screen.
Yeah.
That's like the only pop vinyl I want.
That's definitely, the Funko Pops are at their best when either they're not emulating like a human or a humanoid, or if they're co-designed by like people that worked on the show. Like the Steven Universe Funkos they had people that worked on the show help design those, and I feel like it offsets like some of that Uncanny Valley feel to it a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool. But
I would say like 99% of Funkos don't really look that good.
Yeah, and with these Fully Cooley Funkos, you're getting that. They're the characters with big soulless black eyes.
But still, I mean, it's cool. It's always cool to have merchandise for things really like, because I mean, like, I don't know, maybe, even with FLCL, like, I'm sure there's like, if you're talking about like a Conte statue that exists, it's like tons of money, but it's like, if you want to show your love for the show, like in your house, and it's like, you can only afford a Funko Pop, then, go buy that Funko Pop, show your love for the show and the characters and stuff.
I still don't have it yet, but I want to. Maybe I'll order it after this. But yeah, so this show overall is kind of a metaphor for maturity, growing up, puberty. The whole show getting so crazy is, it's a pretty good metaphor for how crazy that point in your life is. Just everything all out of your control.
All been there.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like maybe that's why people in our age group jived with it so well, because we were right in
it came at the right time.
Yes, because we were also, like I said, it was formative for us because we were in our formative years, and much like Naota, like that whole theme of the show is like dealing with like kind of what we were doing at the time too.
Yeah. One thing I like about the ending of episode 1, you know how they do those little next time on Fooly Cooly.
Oh, you know what? Those weren't on the versions that I watched, but I totally forgot about those.
Oh, really? That's too bad, because this one, the first episode's the only one where I personally think it's really cool. Like, the others aren't bad, but in this one, Haruko doesn't mention the next episode at all. But she's talking about Game Boys.
Oh.
She says, the Advance is hip right now, but the original has a place in my heart. She talks about, like, there was only the plastic gray. She talks about how the Game Boy Color had killer app use, like the sewing machine. And then she says, not much use for virtual anymore. So that's cool. It's just cool hearing Haruko talk about Game Boys.
Yeah.
Then we kind of dipped into the second episode already, where you go more into Mamimi's story. There's an arsonist going around burning shit down. Eventually pieced together that it's Mamimi burning all the shit down. Hold on, let me look at my you talk about something, I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah. I was actually never entirely certain on that. Like, I always felt like she talked about the old school burning down and stuff, but it was always, or I always felt like it was a bit ambiguous as to whether
it is.
Yeah,
it is
but
ambiguous.
But the actual fires that are happening within the current day of that episode, they were set by her, or was that more like it was just happenstance, like because it was?
I assume they were set by her. I don't think they ever say for certain. I think in the manga, it's more like
straightforward.
It's more straightforward that it's her.
Okay.
But the impression I got, to me, it seemed like she did it when she mentions later on. She brings up like it doesn't matter because the ash and remains are still there afterwards. You can't shit like that.
And honestly, you know what? In hindsight, it actually would make sense because there's like the whole bit in the. I mean, I know I'm kind of jumping around a lot talking about the episodes, even though we're trying to talk about all 6. But there's the bit in the last episode where she's talking about like her revenge plot and stuff, and like she steals all the kids' phones and like feeds them and stuff. So honestly, setting the fires and stuff, that would actually seem like in character.
Yeah, it's definitely in her wheelhouse to burn shit down. This episode has probably my favorite scene in the whole show. Which is the scene where Mamimi is watching Conte in the destroyed remains of the school.
Oh, and then
it's playing Hybrid Rainbow.
And he's like up on the building and like he puts his arms out and like spins around and like flies and stuff.
That scene is so good. The music for it is perfect. The colors are so good. Just it's like very faded, light purple reddish evening sky with just the dark silhouette of Conte and the burned down school in front of it. It's just mwah.
Yeah, it's super good.
Yeah, it's so good. And I think another reason why I think it was Mamimi doing the fires is the whole episode. She talks about playing that game Firestarter.
Yeah, and so I always just kind of felt like it was just happenstance. Like she was also playing a game that was about setting fires. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb.
No, because it is pretty ambiguous. You kind of need to look into it a little. And, the show has so much going on. It's so easy to not notice little details. But that game is basically about exactly what she's doing. The game, you're trying to appease a god named Lord Conte by setting fires. And so I assume through the episode, she's setting these fires to appease the robot Conte, who she thinks is a god.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
It kind of ties into the stuff with Naota's brother, because
yeah, that's
my mouth's moving. My mouth's moving a little faster than my brain. But it's someone being there for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So since Naota's brother isn't there, she's always looking for something else. There's Naota himself. There's
the cat.
Conte, the cat. All sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this episode really goes into Mamimi's character. They show her washing her clothes in the river. Naota's stupid little friends kind of make fun of her.
Yeah.
Haruko mentions being a space patrol officer in this episode, and it's never certain whether she's telling the truth or not.
Yeah, but then, yeah, I always wondered about that too. But then, it just kind of, once you start watching the other episodes after it, and you're kind of piecing together, I don't know, I guess maybe that she actually was telling the truth, in that one instance. But you wouldn't know at that point. You wouldn't know at that time that she was, because she's such a shifty character.
Naota mentions that. He says he doesn't know where the lies end and the truth begins.
Yeah.
And then at the end, after Conte eats Naota to get Atomisk's powers, he just shits him back out.
Yeah. I always thought that was really funny. You know what? Okay, so I didn't mean to touch on that earlier, but I feel like even beyond the general audience that watched the show and enjoyed it, this show, I feel like was definitely influential to a bunch of shows that came after it.
Oh, definitely.
The one thing that comes to mind specifically is the original Teen Titans.
Oh, 100. They have a whole episode where Beast Boy rides around on a Vespa.
They sure do.
Yeah, and that show wouldn't have existed as it was without FLCL. I feel like maybe that show would have been a more straight up DC Heroes type show, but I feel like since FLCL came out and it was such a huge hit, and the Western studios were oh, we want to get our own or maybe not exactly totally ape it, but I feel like a lot of that early Teen Titans is just directly oh yeah, we watched FLCL and you can tell
Well, I mean, I do I definitely agree that maybe Fully Cooley had some influence on that, but the whole anime style on
it was big at the time.
Yeah, it was just because it was more. I've looked into this a little bit, but it was mostly anime as a genre. Was really exploding in that early 2000s. But I mean, obviously, yeah, there is that episode. I think it's in season 4.
Yeah,
it's the one where he fights the tofu aliens.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's riding around on Haruko's Vespa the whole episode. But I definitely agree that there probably is some Fully Cooley influence in Teen Titans for sure.
I would wager much more than some, but yeah, I definitely do agree that I think just that boom of anime influence in Western animation was definitely coming through right around that time. Like I said, not to say that it wasn't specific. I mean, I don't know. I feel like in Teen Titans' case, it's safe to say it directly influenced, but in a lot of other shows, like Avatar, I wouldn't say that was directly influenced by FLCL, but that one's definitely got some of that same flavor in there as well. But I mean, it's probably more directly influenced by a bunch of other shows and more just anime as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
There is another direct Fully Cooley reference in Teen Titans, but it's not in the show. It's at the time, they had a comic based on the show going.
Yeah, I had some issues with that back then.
It was called Teen Titans Go.
It sure was.
And then
we
saw that turn. We saw how they eventually turned that name into something else entirely.
Yeah, it makes it very hard to find things based on that comic when you have a show with the same name, and then they made a comic based on that version of the show with the same exact name as well.
Yeah.
So there's just 3 different things called Teen Titans Go out there. But the first comic based on the 2003 show, one of the covers, it was a pretty early issue, at the top, they had Beast Boy and Raven shooting guns at each other, just like they did in episode 5 of this show.
Oh, when they're having a little like
It
airsoft war.
Yeah, it was 100% the exact same thing, and I was like, "Ah, that's from that show."
Yeah.
Right on Shooting Star, very good credit song.
Oh yeah, no, that's just when I think of like FLCL, that's like the first thing that comes to mind is just like the little credit sequence of like the Vespa driving itself and the pillows.
That's such
playing.
a great credit sequence, since it's just the Vespa riding around real life Japan.
Yeah, it's just like photographs and like it's really good.
I hesitate to ever say that's like my favorite. Like that just seems like the go-to Fully Cooley favorite song answer. But it's definitely great. It's definitely the most iconic song, for an obvious reason.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the only 2 songs that's played in every single episode.
Yeah,
and it doesn't really count since it's the credits.
Yeah, and I feel like Advice is not even played in every single. I think it's maybe like 5 out of the 6.
I think,
or maybe it is every episode. I don't know.
I need to listen again. I need to go through with the sole purpose of being like, what song is this? What song is this?
Well, Advice is the one that plays whenever something's coming out of Noah's head.
Yeah, but the one that does play in every episode is Little Busters.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
It's basically the epilogue. This lets you know, okay, we're done. This is the epilogue. The episode's done. The next episode's all about Nina Mori.
Yeah, it's the whole thing about them putting on the play.
This episode's a weird one. I was listening to another podcast talking about Fully Cooley before this. I tried not to listen too much since I didn't want to be just, pair what they're saying.
Yeah.
But they bring up that of the 6 episodes, only 3 really tie into the bigger overall plot at hand. And then there's
I guess that's correct.
like every episode is important. Each episode like ties into like character stuff. Like
there's no filler episodes.
Oh,
it's only 6 episodes. You can't really like.
Well, it's kind of filler.
I mean,
it's not really filler, but in terms of like the actual story going, I'd say episodes 1, 4, and 6 are the important ones. And then 2, 3, and 5 are great, but you could probably cut them out and still get the overall story. Not that you'd want to.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Yeah.
It'd be a total disservice to cut them out, and you'd be cutting out a lot of character stuff. But like as far as like the plot of like Adamus, what Haruko wants, Medical Mechanica, those other 3 episodes don't really. Well, I guess episode 5 kind of, because you have the giant robot with the hand.
Right. Yeah.
But like this episode doesn't really tie into any of that at all.
Yeah, this one's just more
which is
like
totally fine.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of like. Yeah, the underlying plot of this episode's more about Nina Mori's like father, who's the mayor, getting caught in a scandal where like he was like sleeping with like his aide or something.
Yeah, and it shows how she's trying to fake being a mature adult by not caring. Like she's trying to come across as aloof about it, not caring about the whole thing. And then in the last episode, she brings up how she talked to her parents and she cried a little bit, and that shows that she's become an actual mature person. She's grown, while Naota still has a ways to go.
Yeah, but he's getting there.
Yeah, this episode's a weird one in that. So up until now, the NO portals have been very. They've been tied to male characters. The NO holes are tied to masculinity and acts of masculinity.
Yeah.
But no, in this episode, Naota's just able to transfer that over to Nina Mori for an episode.
Yeah, and I was always wondering how exactly. Like, I guess I would have to do specifically with the NO zones and stuff. But yeah, I always wondered kind of how that worked, because like I know she was messing around with his ears and stuff, but I feel like there was actually a bit where like they actually their heads touch or something, right? Like,
yeah, that's when he transfers it over to her. But for the reason why it happens, like, narratively, the reason is they had a story they wanted to do, and that was the only way they could do it.
that's fair.
There's no real in story reason for that other than well, this episode's about Nina Mori.
Yeah, don't ever feel like you're pigeonholed into the rules that you set yourself for your own universe, especially if you created FLCL, which is already pretty nonsensical as it is.
Pretty much. Yeah.
A lot of things have a reason and purpose, but not everything has a reason.
Yeah.
Which is fine, if a show is just going to be fun and cool, I think that's the only excuse it really needs.
Yeah, I agree.
Most of the time.
But yeah, that's just mostly that episode is just Naoto going around with like little cat ears under his hat, and then the transfer's over, and then like there's just big. There was something that when like the monster actually gets summoned through, and it's like she's hanging off like a big this big spider legs with like, was it like scissor legs?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it reminded me of like something specific, but I'm failing to remember exactly what it is at the moment. But I always really dug that, like, yeah, the monster designs in this are so like cool, and I feel like that's not news to anyone that's familiar with Gainax, but like I haven't really checked out their other work, but just from what I've seen from Neon Genesis and like from Gurren Lagann and stuff, like, yeah, that seems to be like where they're like really comfortable, like in their in kind of like their design work and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. They love drawing them some big monsters or big robots or what have you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I kind of have the least amount of notes for this episode, like of all the episodes, just because it doesn't super tie into, like, it does tie into Naota, but it's mostly about Nina Mori, and she's not like a massive part of the overall story. But
no, she shows up pretty much just like the other little side characters, like, now and then.
Yeah. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I like that the big chase scene music is Comedian's Gallop.
Yeah, that's like one of the very few the songs in the show that's like, I think, taken
not
from
The Pillows.
Well, I mean, there's other songs that aren't by the Pillows too. Like, I think like there's like River's Edge and like some other stuff that's done by the other composer that I mentioned, I believe. But I think this one's taken wholesale from like a musical or something.
Yeah, this one's like classical music.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Anytime I hear it, Fooly Cooly should be the first thing I think of, but the first thing I actually think of is, do either of you remember the old Newgrounds flashes, Dad's Home and Dad's at Work?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can totally see why that would...
Dad's at Work uses that exact same song.
I think I tend to remember Dad's Home a lot more than Dad's at Work, but yeah, no, that's definitely... I totally forgot that was the song in that.
I think that's the reason I remember Dad's at Work is mostly because this song was used in both it and Fooly Cooly.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, these two cool things use this song.
I tend to think of that Mute City ending to Dad's at Home whenever I think of those two.
Those Newgrounds shorts are probably the best things on Newgrounds. They're my favorite. They're so good.
They're really good.
Naota's dad is an asshole in this episode. He's the one who broke the story about Nina Mori's parents. And the big scandal. Yeah,
they kind of dip into like a little bit of his like, he has like the zine and like or I feel like he's not necessarily like a journalist, but he's not really paparazzi either. I think it was just like in this very specific instance where he was like, and it makes you wonder exactly like what the end goal was at all.
Yeah, because they mentioned in the second episode that he would print zines about the story of Evangelion.
Yeah, they touch upon like that he's a really big like manga fan and like robot fan and stuff.
Yeah, he's a big pop culture guy.
Yeah, but like that little bit about like doing the zine and like exposing the mayor and stuff, like always kind of stood out as like a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, he's not great. He's not a cool guy, especially since. So in this episode, Nina Mori stays over at Naota's house for the night to get away from all the shit going on. Also because, Well, no, I guess that's just the reason. I just remembered she hit heads with Naota. This whole crazy thing happens. Then she comes over to eat curry. But
Yeah, what was it? What was the little like Little Prince curry or
Little Prince Curry brand?
Yeah.
Probably the creepiest scene in the whole show, like the biggest dirtbag scene, is when Naota's dad is talking to Ninamori when she's washing up about the whole thing.
Yeah, like through the window.
Yeah, I didn't notice this the first time. I only noticed it after they talked about it on the other podcast I listened to. He gives her that thing to keep the soap and water out of her eyes. But he holds it just far enough away that she would have to like move her arms to.
Oh my god! Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, think about that one.
Ugh. Yeah, I feel like basically, and you don't really see that many of them, but I feel like all the adults on this show are, and Haruko included, like, yeah,
they're all pretty shitty.
Yeah, and I think maybe the only one that's not so much is the teacher, who's just, you know, a teacher. Like, they're just kind of doing their job.
Shitty, but she is kind of stupid and ditzy and crazy.
Yeah, but not like so much that it's like harmful to, you know, it's not like Naota's dad or grandpa who are just like pretty awful, or Haruko who's just pretty awful in general, you know, like.
Yeah, Haruko's weird since she's awful. Like, the whole point of the show is that she's doing this awful thing just using this kid, but she's just so good and great and fun.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's something that I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, like, need to hear, is that, like, it's not problematic to love a character who's like a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, like those characters exist so that, you know, they'll evoke certain reactions out of you, and it's like, you know, if your reaction is that you love them, then that's a valid reaction.
Yeah, look at Dan Versus.
Yeah,
that's a good point, actually.
Yeah, that's his whole deal.
They should remake Fully Cooley, except instead of Naota, it's Dan.
I don't think he would put up with half the shit in this show.
Yeah. That's the only way I would want more Fully Cooley.
I thought I was going to say the only way you want more Dan Versus.
I'd take more Dan Versus in a heartbeat. I love that show.
Dan Versus is so good.
Such a weird outlier, like on the Hub Network.
It's just, it's a show that I constantly have to remind myself is for kids, because like, how is this a show for kids?
Yeah.
Have you done an episode on Dan Versus yet?
I don't think so, but we should.
That'd be a good one.
Let's do that in the future. Everyone to comment below about how much you want to hear a Dan Versus episode. Maybe we'll do that.
Hell yeah.
Make your voice heard.
Yeah.
So
that's
with, my favorite line in this whole episode. It's when they're at the school. It's the next day, and they're going to rehearse for the play. Naota doesn't want to, but his one friend is in the mouse costume.
Smooch.
Yeah, did you put her tongue in? Smooch. That's my favorite. Every single time.
It's really good.
Then it ends with her wearing her glasses, but they're fake.
Yeah, she puts her finger right through the lenses. And that's another thing where it's just like, you know, that even the kids in this show are telling lies all the time. Like, because that's the whole thing earlier. Like, that's a bit where Naota thinks he's connecting with her, is like, oh, I like the only person who's ever seen me with glasses on.
Yeah. Episode 4 is probably, I think, the most vague and confusing.
Right. So that's the one where Amuro.
That's the baseball one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, you know what? God, I think the ending to that episode might be the most iconic of the whole show.
With the satellite.
Yeah. It pulls a guitar out of his head and like hits it, and then the Haruko comes and hits it too. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I didn't really watch FLCL and like think like, oh, that's my favorite scene, but maybe that one is.
It's a great one.
It's a really good scene.
Yeah, this whole for the longest time I could not tell you what happens in this episode. The stuff with Come On and the robot, and this is the first episode with Amuro coming in to Oh, and sorry for everyone listening if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. They don't actually say his name very much.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Um,
think people the guy with the eyebrows. There you go.
Yeah,
The guy with the
eyebrow.
nori eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's another metaphor for masculinity. He wears the fake eyebrows to be seen as manly and tough, and then as soon as those eyebrows come off, he's
He's just like really immature and like really like
he's
yeah.
like, what has he got that I don't got?
I never really thought about it that way, about it being like a thing for masculinity. Like, but
Yeah.
that definitely does make sense though.
Yeah, this episode probably has the most metaphors. Even just like swinging the bat on its own is like so many different
Yeah.
interpretations.
Yeah.
So JD, what did you think watching this episode? This episode that we're even saying is probably the most confusing and obtuse.
Do you remember this specific episode?
This is the baseball one.
Yeah. I just this one especially was lost on me. Like,
We'll try to clear it up as much as we can.
Yeah.
like I like the visual, especially at the end. You know, them hitting the satellite and all that stuff. Like, I love the visuals to it, but like, again, I'm just lost completely all the time.
This episode was one I had to read up on.
Were you wondering why they replaced the dad with a robot?
Maybe a little bit.
No, that was
me too. Yeah, I was wondering too.
So I read up about it a little. Haruko. So remember, she said your head's the only one that works. Naoto's dad. He's really into Haruko. Haruko hates him. He sucks.
Yeah.
She kills him, or at least thinks she kills him. Replaces him with a robot to try to trigger Naoto's NO.
Right, because it seems to be influenced.
She's trying to rile him up.
Yeah, it's influenced by like heavy emotion.
Heavy emotion, masculinity, stuff like that. So yeah, she basically killed or almost killed his real dad. Replaced him with a robot just to really rile him up, and that's why she's messing around with him.
All right then.
And she's always like, "What's the matter, Naota? Mm-hmm. Something about this bothering you? What's weird about this?"
Yeah, so I don't know. I always thought that was a bit weird because I always kind of took it as because he does mention like oh, I think I might have died for a bit there. I always just thought that was kind of like not an exactly like a confirmation that he actually did die. I just always assumed, and even like when I was watching this as a kid, I always just assumed when he found him and he's like all shriveled up and stuff, I was just thinking like, oh, I guess they just fucked so much he just got like totally dehydrated, and that's the reason why he like Naoto like throws him in the bath. And I was just like, even as a kid, I had that thought, and like I wasn't even that in that thought process, but I just got that because of the context that we see earlier in that episode about them like potentially having relations and stuff. That was
eating that drippy egg.
Yeah,
that's a good scene. That's probably my favorite scene with the egg between the two. Yeah. So Amuro comes down. He works for the Bureau of Interstellar Immigration, and I'm not super 100%. I think they're acting as like the middleman between Medical Mechanica and the government. So they know Medical Mechanica is kind of up to something they shouldn't be. And this guy who works for them has a history with Haruko and knows that she is going for Medical Mechanica too. They're trying to stop her for some reason.
I feel like maybe she was going to interfere in their own plans for. You always see that like in movies and shows that kind of deal with like undercover, maybe not necessarily undercover operations and stuff. But it's like you just ruin like 6 months work of like preliminary work for like what was eventually would like eventually happen like in a takedown or something.
Yeah,
and I feel like she was kind of like this what's the word I'm thinking of? Not a lone wolf, a wild card. She's like a wild card that just kind of comes in and like is threatening to kind of disturb the whole operation.
You're a loose cannon.
Yeah.
So Naota's playing baseball in this episode. He refuses to swing the bat.
Just swing the bat, Naota.
Yeah, come on.
Just
geez,
that's basically what the episode amounts to. Just swing the bat. It's like Shinji getting the robot. Naota, swing the bat.
It's a metaphor for, stepping up. But he doesn't want to swing the bat because it's mostly because feelings of, I guess, inadequacy towards his brother, because his brother's the famous baseball star. He doesn't want to, swing the bat and not live up to him.
Yeah, exactly.
But Haruko keeps trying to trigger that NO through multiple ways. Part of it is joining the opposite baseball team and being so good at baseball. And then part of it is the stuff with Naota's dad. Part of it is she wants to knock down the satellite from the sky through her baseball to kind of force Naota to do something about it, to force the NO thing.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking through my notes a little while reading this. Naota is jealous of Haruko hanging out with his dad. He hits the TV and the robot explodes. That's the one part I'm kind of like, I'm not sure exactly what's
right
going on here. But, you get it. They think he killed his dad, but it was just a robot. I guess in the manga, he actually does kill his dad, is what I read. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, Amuro knows more about what's going on, but even that, he only knows limited things. Naota's dad says his head didn't work, so Haruko just kind of killed him and used the robot to trigger Naota.
Yeah.
He finally swings the bat to knock the satellite back into the sky, and this is kind of the start of Mamimi starting to lose interest in Naota. She sees he's starting to become more of an individual, less something she can kind of sink her teeth into.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why she's so disappointed when he finally swings. She's like, oh.
And that's why the entire next episode is kind of their relationship kind of struggling,
falling out.
Yeah. And then that's at the point where he's just sort of he's become so much more confident in himself, and so he's trying to still remain friends with him and everything, but she's losing interest, like you said.
Yeah, so that's basically the gist of the episode. Haruko trying to trigger Naota's NO, and Mamimi seeing Naota growing up, thinking more for himself. Naota swinging the bat, hitting the comet, trying to, starting to really step up to the plate, as it were. But yeah, it's very confusing, but it's a little more digestible when those are kind of the main beats of the episode.
Yeah.
Amuro coming in, telling Naota, watch out for Haruko. She's not super great. She's kind of using you, kid.
And like anyone knows his age, doesn't want to listen to, the establishment, I guess, is not necessarily the adults, but more like the establishment.
Well, especially since Naota has nothing but kind of shitty adults in his life. Why should he listen to this one?
Exactly. Especially because Haruko is, and that's the whole other thing about the show, is just sort of there's the themes of growing up and everything else, but also there's just this this sort of other thing where it's just talking about how the town is just very normal, and so to have her kind of come into his life and be this this emblematic sort of thing for what exists outside of his own little world, they're in town, and it's just very enticing.
Yeah,
and so that's why he keeps on going along with it.
This show has a lot of sexual imagery in it.
Yeah, that's kind of an understatement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and yeah, that was always took me as a kid too. I was just man, this show is really I'd never seen it condensed. It's so much. It's such a horny show.
Basically, when I was a kid, there's a few scenes that really stick out. But as a kid, I'm little innocent Dustin doesn't really get that much. But nowadays,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really understand like at the time too, but like in hindsight, like when you're going back and looking at a lot of the imagery and like the scenes and stuff, and it's just like, oh my god, it makes sense why it was only ever on Adult Swim and isn't like on Toonami proper.
yeah,
Like Adult Swim existed like what 2001.
hmm
Yeah.
So yeah, so FLCL came out in like 2000 and like didn't come to the States until 2003. So
I think I heard. I don't know how true this is, but I think I heard they really tried to get it for Toonami, but they just could not for obvious reasons.
Yeah, very obvious.
Shit, I was about to say something else, but now I can't remember what it was.
Sure, it'll come to you.
Yeah. Oh well.
But yeah, so in the next episode,
4, probably my least favorite episode, just because it's so confusing, and also the style changes a lot in this episode, and it's not a style I mean, it still looks wonderful. It's great, but it doesn't hit me as much as like other styles this show does.
sure.
It has like weird angles. It makes their noses look really big in some scenes. And it's cool, it's different, but I'm still kind of like, I don't know if I'd draw it like that.
Right.
The next episode, however, is probably my favorite episode.
Right. This is
Mostly because of just how it looks. I think this episode, the characters look so good. I don't know the name of the artist who did like the character drawings, like the storyboards and stuff for this episode. I have the Fully Cooley art book, the Fully Cooley archives, and it says who it is, but his name's not coming to me right now. But like, his stuff in this show is my favorite. It looks so good.
Yeah, no, there's that whole sequence in the show where it's Amuro and it's like his goons like having the gunfight with the Haruko, and that's always been like one of my favorite scenes from the show.
I totally agree, but that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, talking about the sexual imagery, how so Amuro has NO, but it's very pathetic. So you kind of get that dick imagery of she just pulls out in this episode, in episode 5, a little dinky slingshot out of Naota's head. She pulls out these giant guitars, and when she pulls the guitar out of his head in episode 4, all the ladies at the bureau.
They all get bloody noses.
Yeah, they all get bloody noses.
Yeah, I never understood that as a kid, and then rewatching it now,
such an intense display of masculine power.
Yeah, like they keep on flashing. Like they show like those same shots like 3 times, and one it's like them normal. The second one, like they're just completely covered in blood, and then the next time they have like the tissues crammed up their nose.
Yeah, like, blocking their nostrils.
Yeah. Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, episode 5, Brittle Bullet, is very fun. It's a very fun episode. Lots of gunplay, lots of fun animation.
Yeah, so besides the scene that I mentioned, that's also the bit with the airsoft guns. I think I accidentally said that was in the last episode, but yeah, for this one.
Yeah, lots of Lupin references in this episode.
Yeah, that was, and it's funny because I don't know if Lupin must have been on Adult Swim at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was one of the earliest anime grabs.
But I guess it really worked out if it was right around, if not like before, at least it was right around that time where it would have been on there, so people actually would have gotten the reference.
Yeah. Come on even mentions like I could do the green coat from Castle of Cagliostro.
And they're talking about what was it Monkey Sensei, like Monkey Punch, their creator.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, this episode's just probably the most fun, but also probably the most I don't want to say the most dramatic, but it is the one where like Naota and Mamimi's relationship kind of comes to a head.
Yeah.
In a bad way. In my notes, I have listed, you see bare Haruko booty. Don't remember if Adult Swim censored or not.
Yeah, I'm wondering because, there's the bits where you do see like when Naota is bathing, and then when
Ninamori.
Yeah, they're bathing and stuff, and I feel like, at least in the thing that I saw, I think they censored like her ass like a little bit, but not with Naota, and that's just tends to be like the trend with like, boy and girl censorship, like as far as that sort of thing goes. So maybe they did. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and I know they have like Fully Cooley on demand on Adult Swim's site. I wonder if those are like the censored version. That's another thing I wonder about because the last episode is a full half hour. How did they condense that for Adult Swim?
Yeah, maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't. Maybe they just aired it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, like I watched these. I rewatched these on YouTube. There was like an upload of like the high quality versions, and that was where I saw them. And I feel like maybe these do actually have the next time I'm fully cool, and I just skipped them so that I could, because I just wanted to watch all the episodes full. Like I didn't even watch the ending credits because I wanted to save it for the very end.
Yeah, because they're right after the end credit, so you probably
That makes
just
sense.
skipped them without
Unknowingly.
knowing they were there.
Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, honestly, the only one I really think is great is the Game Boy one. But there's one where Haruko says, like, guess which one of these cats is voiced by a real cat at Gynet? Yeah, this is the episode with the South Park style change with Amuro.
Yeah.
Mamimi's, you get the sense that she's not super into Naota anymore. Naota's dad is super threatened by him getting some action with Haruko. Haruko smooching him.
Yeah, and that's the reason why they have the whole airsoft fight.
Yeah, exactly.
And like he's parading around in a Nazi officer's uniform.
A little weird, but
That's a whole thing in Japan, though. Like I understand.
Thing.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
This episode, after Naota swung the bat in the last episode, Naota thinks he's real hot shit in this episode. He's like bragging about it.
Yeah.
To his friends. And that ties into what's in his head in this episode, because the gun in his head cocks every time he gets a little cock.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put that together. I was just wondering right now. I always assumed when those little like 2-second things are like it's showing the same animation of the gun getting cocked over and over again. I just always assumed that was kind of like another, I don't know, because you always hear like the, maybe not verbatim the phrase, but like the another gun in the, or another shit, I can't even think of it now. Anyway, using as more ammo for sort of like his newfound sort of cocky personality.
Yeah, it happens every time he starts bragging about himself. Like,
so yeah, I thought it was more like an actual physical representation of like kind of that, but I didn't realize it was an actual physical representation of the monster in this episode, which is just made of guns. I actually didn't put that together.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That giant robot at the end is such a cool design.
This show is a thinking man show. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. That's what's good about it. You don't have to think if you don't want.
Yeah, no, you can just iron out the wrinkles in your brain, just like they talk about.
Exactly.
And I wonder if that's definitely tied to kind of the overall thing in the show about like, obviously they weren't going to know what the criticism of the show was going to be like until it was all out. But I think like maybe they knew when they were making it, like, yeah, there's probably going to be like some people out there, they're going to say that it's
going to be a little heady for some people.
Yeah, and so maybe it's just better to iron out the wrinkles in your brain and just enjoy it for what it is.
Go along for the ride.
Yeah.
One note I have written down is just when Naota's dad is swimming by. I don't remember the name of the female officer. Amuro's.
Yeah, it's.
But you know the one I mean.
Kitsuru Bami?
Yeah, she has a long name.
Yes, it's the lieutenant.
Yeah. She's in the river. She tried to blow up Conte.
Yeah.
I just have the note written when Naota's dad swims past her and says, "Robots are different than cyborgs."
Yeah. I think doesn't Mamimi make a comment like that later on too? Oh no, she makes it before that.
She says it to her. She says it's a common mistake.
And then she gets blown up.
Yeah. Yeah, so Naota gets really cocky. He starts like actually trying to be romantic with Mamimi, but she's like She's over
That's
him.
not him.
She sees Naota's growing up. She's not what she wants right now.
Yeah.
Which gets him very pissed off. I should have taken more notes on this episode. It's my favorite one, but at the end it just becomes like that whole huge gunfight with Amuro's guys and Haruko.
Yeah.
When the giant robot is attacking and Naota and Mamimi are on it, Mamimi starts calling for his brother.
Yeah, and he gets all pissed.
All pissed off.
And that's like the first time that he kind of like summons Conte himself to like kind of feed himself to it to get the power.
Yeah. I don't know if it's supposed to be treated as a good thing or bad thing that he's kind of... I guess it's a good thing. He's saying like, you treat me for who I am rather than my brother.
Yeah.
I have in my notes, giant fucking robot with a gun.
It's made out of like 5 guns.
Yeah, and Haruko gets the little dinky guitar slingshot from Amuro, and then she's in a bunny suit for the whole.
And she and Conte also turns into a gun like he does.
Yeah,
and there's just lots of guns in this episode. It's a really gun-heavy episode.
But I think it does a good job of making it kind of fun, like the game at the beginning, the duel. The pellet guns. That whole scene is very fun. Because it's more of a game, and then near the end, it's crazy gunplay for the whole episode. It's another very jam-packed episode.
Yeah, and the episode ends with Haruko kind of running off with Conte, who's got the power of Adamesk.
Yeah, you see, in this episode, he gets that full power of Adamesk, and he sends Naota flying outwards like a bullet. And then at the end, he's just kind of lying in a crumpled heap, and Haruko just steps on his face.
I love that fucking visual. So funny with like all his teeth out and like it's all crumpled up.
But that leads into the very last episode, fully Climax, where you get kind of a time skip, not a huge one, but I think maybe like a few months.
Yeah, because I think, or no, they didn't. They graduated at the end of the episode, right? That's not the beginning.
Yeah, they're still in school. They're doing like the chopstick stuff.
Yeah, it's enough time that it's significant because Naota's like kind of very aloof at the beginning of the episode because Haruko's been gone.
Yeah, he just kind of leaves the classroom.
He's becoming the delinquent like Mamimi.
Yeah. The one thing, well, one of many things that is maybe still unclear to me is why the steam starts coming out of the medical Mechanica building. I guess it's just because it's getting ready to iron out the world.
Yeah, because I mean that's the whole thing that they're talking about. Like,
I don't know if it's like a metaphor for anything like bigger, or if it's just literally, all right, it's ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's up for interpretation.
I wrote down Ninamori becomes completely detached, but what I actually meant was that Mamimi becomes completely detached.
Yeah, there's a lot of similar.
She's totally moved away from Naota. She finds the core. She finds the terminal core that's like a little dog.
Starts feeding it cell phones.
She lets it eat her cell phone. She got upset at first because her phone had
Naota's brother's number.
The number on it. She's like, don't eat that. And then she's like, well, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, which is kind of maybe like the last remnants of sort of her
hope for him.
Yeah.
And then they start going around getting revenge on other people. Her revenge list. Yeah,
and like I think what eats
his scooter. The guy who flashed her at the lake.
And then just like goes around and starts trying to eat like Naota's friends and stuff.
Yeah, eats the truck.
That's what it was.
I love that the core's design. It's just like a little robot dog.
Yeah, like I said, that seems to just be where fucking Gynax's design sensibilities are the strongest. Is like
Yeah.
with the creature design.
And she calls it Takun too, I guess, because it's another thing she can kind of control, kind of feel close to, just like Nauta and the other cat. Amuro brings up he thinks Haruko wants to save Adamus because she's in love with him, but well, that is kind of open to interpretation too. They never say one way or the other. It could be both. Maybe she wants his power. Maybe she is in love with Adamus.
I think that was one of those things that kind of got elaborated on in the other series.
I don't even want to know. The thing is, some things are best left a mystery. That's why I was kind of hesitant to kind of look deeper into like what Fully Cooley means, because there is kind of a charm to not knowing what's going. Having that book still be open.
Exactly. Yeah, and they talk about that in the first and last episode. Like, what does Fully Cooley mean? And they don't ever really say. And they're like, wait, the main character is supposed to know these things.
Yeah, I was thinking of looking that up. That as soon as I finished the last episode, I was like, maybe I should look up what Fully Cooley means so I can talk about it. But it's like, no, that's okay.
Fully Cooley is an OVA from 2000, with its released in 2003.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You just type in, what is Fully Cooley? Oh, there's the wiki.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't know. I'm asking. When are we going to do our What is Funny episode? Can we do that for my birthday? Just talk about that one short.
Funny?
I'll spare you guys talking about Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon if we can do a double feature. What is funny in the Shizagi?
Dustin, I do. If memory serves, I think you might have already.
Oh fuck, we did talk. Did we talk about both?
Remember the April Fool's episode?
Oh shoot,
the very good pilots.
The best pilots ever.
That's right. I forgot. We already talked about my favorite things in the world.
Well, hey, April Fools. That's not the last time you're going to talk about them.
That's true. There's more. April Fools. We're just going to talk about those every April Fool.
I'm going to be quite the April Fool myself.
So Haruko comes back into Naoto's life like nothing happened in the return of the anime or the manga scene.
Yeah.
I love how at the end of the manga scene it just deteriorates into rough pencil sketches.
Yeah.
They're like, that's enough. It's a lot of work. We no more of this. Just go back to anime.
I meant to bring this up in the first episode. It's not related to the manga scene, but just kind of talking about the little maybe non sequitur. I mean, yeah, there's a few non sequiturs in the show. It's not like Family Guy level, but like there's the bit in the first episode where they do they kind of flash. It's during the scene where, and this is like I think this scene specifically is kind of what made me fall in love with FLCL like immediately, was like, because it was so unlike anything I'd seen in anime at the time, was the bit where it kind of goes like 3D. Like I hesitate to say it's not
the smooch, the kiss.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's CG or just really well animated traditional. It's still hard for me to tell.
I was thinking the exact same. I always thought it was CG, but watching it, I'm like, I don't know. This both looks CG and doesn't at the same time.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. But but after that scene in that episode, they do like a little non sequitur where like they go to like I guess the trailer for like the actors, and they talk about
scenes are really tough, huh?
Yeah, like you gotta hold your breath. Yeah, you're like, wait,
you're the ones doing the slow motion.
Yeah, I always thought it was doing a post.
That's what's great about this show. It's this crazy story. It's this super deep thing full of metaphors, but it just also has lots of just straight up funny jokes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You heard it here first, everyone at home. Matt says, quote this, Matt says, Fully Cooley is the Family Guy of anime.
All right, I'm going to put that on a t-shirt and
put that in the description of the episode.
I will certainly try to remember to.
I said it was not Family Guy tier.
I chose not to hear the not part.
Yeah, I mean...
You're just making it seem like I think Coolsville sucks.
Oh, wait.
I think Coolsville sucks.
I love those Scooby-Doo movies.
They're great. We should talk about those on the show.
Yeah. Have you guys done an episode just about live action movies based on cartoons?
I
mean, there's been episodes, but there hasn't been like.
I think that would be a
talked
good
about, like,
theme.
I mean, we've talked about Sonic, and that has as much CG characters as the Scooby-Doo movies do.
Yeah.
So
I would say
it's valid.
that would be a good episode, but that would mean we would have to watch a bunch of them. So never mind.
Well, there's just the two, yeah. Or
No,
there's the TV one too, huh?
In general, like the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh, well, we don't have to do them all at once. We can do all those in the future. Everyone in the comments, let us know down below what terrible live-action CG hybrid movies do you want to see us review or hear?
Yeah,
us
and we'll make sure to not read them.
Yeah,
That's not true. I read all of the comments, all 2 of them.
I'll be. I don't think I've
I
ever.
respond to most of them.
I was talking about how we should do Casper next month.
Oh, Casper would be another.
It's the anniversary of the movie too. It's perfect.
The one where Dan Aykroyd shows up for a second in a Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
You're gonna
the
call
classic. Someone else.
Oh god.
So the core gets bigger and bigger as Mimimi feeds it more stuff. And we find out that terminal core actually hooks up to Conte.
Yeah, okay. So that was a bit I was confused on. Why is Conte just sort of hanging around in the town square?
Well,
I think robot.
No, but like you get the impression at the end of the episode that Haruko runs off with them, and like, why is he like back and like just sort of hanging around? Like you think, I don't know, he's always hanging around the house and stuff. He's just sort of, and you know what? I'm just thinking about it now. I think we were talking about earlier how it doesn't necessarily matter. It just happened because the plot needed to happen. That's probably why.
Well,
Yeah.
What I read was when Haruko got Adamus in Conte, when they ran off, what I read was that she probably tried to
Take his power.
take his power, get Adamus out and absorb his power for herself, but couldn't do it. So that's why she came back to Naota, was because he still has the NO portal. She's like, well, that didn't work. I guess time to go back and try again.
Right. Like she would have absolutely stayed away if she could, but she came back and was taking advantage of Naota again.
She's like, hey, funny running into you again. Anyway, I need you again.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes in this whole show is in this episode. The scene where it's after the manga scene, after Haruko's come back, and it's in their bedroom, and Naota just collapses against her and starts crying.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a good scene, especially because of Haruko's reaction. You don't see her react to it that much, but you don't really know what she's thinking, whether or not she cares about what he's saying or not.
Yeah.
I like to think that by that point she kind of does.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that fits later too, because I feel like a lot of the reactions she has later on are also very genuine and sort of like how she's reacting to Naota like having the power and stuff.
Yeah, she asked him to join her, but again, I think it might just be because it's possible it's just because he has that NO she still needs. But
yeah,
by that point, I like to at least think that she has some affection for him.
Yeah.
But that scene, just the colors of that scene, the emotion of Naota sobbing into Haruko, the song that it's playing One Life again, and I really think that's one of my absolute favorites.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, it's just perfect. And it's like the one song that's not on the Fully Cooley soundtrack I own. I had to like manually add it on iTunes into that album.
Yeah, God, they put out like 4 FLCL soundtracks or something, right?
They put out a bunch. Yeah,
God, they just put one out recently for the when the news shows came out, and it's all it's like the only one that shows up on Apple Music. It's like the Pillows did some re-recordings of like some of the tracks from the original, and then some of the tracks that they some of the new ones they put in the new series.
I'll give them this. I don't like those new series, or at least what I saw of them. The Pillows still bring it. Like those recordings of those songs. They did a new recording of I Think I Can, and it's so I'd rather listen to that version than the original.
Sure. Yeah, no, the Pillows will always be amazing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Haruko asks Naoto to come with her, so he doesn't go to class for a long time. Ninamori just finds him on a bench.
Yeah, just sort of like sleeping like, like their home, like, with the sleeping bag and the cardboard and stuff. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's like, yeah, rewatching this and I just sort of, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's because it's been a long time since I've rewatched it again, or even since I originally watched it. But it's like, kind of, I think everyone's like at some point in their life, they've always had that thought of like wanting to start over.
just
And
run away.
yeah, just run away and just start a new life and stuff. And I feel like this doesn't quite go like full hog on it, but it like starts to show like the development of what it could have potentially led to. And it just
Mhm.
sort of like, yeah, it just kind of,
They're still technically in the town. They're still around.
yeah, but yeah, you just kind of get that feeling like, this is the type of shit that they could have be doing like outside of the town too. And it's just sort of like, I'm not romanticizing it like in any way. I'm just saying that I think we can all relate,
Yeah,
or at least like a lot of people can relate.
it's a feeling a lot of people have.
Yeah.
One note I have, I think they mentioned in passing that Medical Mechanica is using Atomisk to lure Haruko. I'm probably wrong because that doesn't really fit in. And what would they need Haruko for?
Yeah. Like,
Like,
unless
why
you've
else
been,
would they have Atomisk in the first place?
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, they don't really go into like, she's not like a space outlaw or anything, right? She's just sort of like kind of hunting for like her own needs, but it's just very specifically like this power source or this, this interstellar being. But it's not like, I don't think she's caused mischief like a lot before this.
She's not like an outlaw.
Yeah. So that probably wouldn't make that much sense. Although, I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot in this show we could all be all wrong on. I was thinking at the beginning of this episode, we could all just be rambling and not know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Damn.
Maybe.
So in this episode, Naota is swallowed by the core that connects to Conte, and he like fully absorbs. Haruko's using him to get to Atomisk, to free Atomisk, but he ends up absorbing Atomisk like completely this time. And Haruko's like, no, that's mine. And that's why they have that big fight.
Yeah.
That scene's amazing. That whole I think I can scene, the battle between the two.
Yeah, and just that fucking shot of him with like, made out of pure red energy with like the two guitars like standing on top of Conte is like so good.
Yeah. And another metaphor I read about, I was kind of looking into what some of the metaphors are. A lot of them are very obtuse. One of them said, Haruko being on a nonstop search for Atomisk is a metaphor for being on the chase for the unobtainable idea of being a mature adult. And I have 2 question marks after that. Because it could be total bullshit, but I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Big if true.
It yeah, it fits into the overall message of the whole piece. So
yeah.
What is being an adult really?
If anyone out there knows, leave a comment in the section.
I mean, I live in my own apartment with my wife and I pay my taxes. I mean, does that make me an adult?
Well, that's the point. That's again, it's the unobtainable idea of adulthood, of being a mature adult, because you never truly will be. Like, look at all the adults in Naota's life; they're still all very immature and childish. The idea that you're meant to be this perfect, the idea of knowing when you're an adult is an unobtainable one.
Yeah, or like, you could be thinking you're an adult and then like you see somebody out there that's like seems way more of an adult than you are, and you seem like you're very childish in comparison, but like it's all perspective.
I should be like that.
Yeah.
But then Naota has a very adult moment when he kind of the Atomisk kind of leaves him and confesses his love for Haruko and gives her a big smoocheroonie on the mouth.
Smoochy smoochy.
Yeah.
Smooch. But then right after that, right after he smooches Haruko, that huge act of adulthood, of adult masculinity, that's when the NO really goes overboard and the real Adamus finally breaks through this
Yeah, it's
huge
like this big
phoenix,
demon
gigantic arms.
phoenix.
The Pirate King with the power to steal entire galaxies.
So, like, is there some sort of connection between like space pirates and like bird-like characteristics? Because like, there's Metroid, and like those are the only two, but still, that's more than one thing where that's kind of a connection. I don't know.
I think it might just be a coincidence. I don't know
Yeah.
why Phoenix. Maybe there's a reason for it. I'm sure there's a reason for everything in this show, but maybe it's just that it looked cool.
We're
Yeah.
just too dumb to know what it really is.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you have to have a high IQ to understand Fooly Cooley.
Yeah, go into the details why. In this episode,
I'm Pickle Haruko. There's your season 2.
if it somehow furthered her quest to gain the power of Adamus, I'm sure she would have found her some way to turn herself into a pickle, and it would have been the funniest shit we've ever seen.
It would have been more entertaining than what we got. Yeah, so Adamus breaks through his head. Everyone's like, oh, wow, oh, there he is. Oh, cool. And Adamus ends up sucking up that giant hand that's gonna... maybe that's why they had Adamus captured, was he was gonna stop their... Maybe he's this big, heroic guy that was gonna stop their plans of ironing out the Earth and making everyone think smoothly.
Yeah.
Captured him, and once he was free, he used that NO to suck up that big hand that was going to iron out everything.
Maybe.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
then he immediately takes off. Haruko had what she wanted right there and loses it in an instant.
And she takes off. She rides her Vespa into space.
Yeah, that's when it feels like she has some affection for Naota, because
She does make the offer.
she makes the offer and then says, you know what, forget it, because you're still just a kid, Takun. Save it for next time. Oh, and that shot of Naota standing on top of the rubble with the guitar.
That's another really iconic shot.
That's on one of the DVD. I think it's on the last volume of the DVDs. That's like the cover for it. And Mamimi takes the photo of it.
Right, yeah, and that they actually show that photo in a little in the newspaper later. Well, because they talk about like they don't quite do an Animal House ending, but they do kind of just do a little narration saying like Mamimi like left the town and became a journalist or photojournalist or photographer.
Yeah, she became a photographer, which good for her. The whole episode she's getting the shit stick, and now she goes on to after she lets go of like Naota's brother and everything. That's when she's kind of able to start over and move on.
Yeah.
And, they don't really go into how it worked out, but, they just tell you she left to become a photographer. And that's still... The anime ends on a very hopeful, optimistic note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good, which is nice. Like, all the characters are in a pretty good spot at the end. Naota still has Haruko's guitar.
And he's, like, hanging out with his, his school friends more. Like, they just graduated.
Yeah. That's another thing. Like, throughout the whole show, he's kind of moving away from his other friends a little bit because of he's hanging out more with like Mamimi and Haruko, and by the end, he's just hanging out with them at the bus stop, which is cool. His life does kind of go back to normal.
Except Conte's still at the house.
Yeah, Conte's still at the house, which is cool.
Yeah.
Can't give up your TV robot.
Yeah, they can still use them for all sorts of little errands.
No, JD, it's a TV Walkman because it walks around.
He's a TV Walkman.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Naota's dad is such an asshole, but I think he might have one of my favorite voice acting performances of the show. I don't know who voices him, but he does such a good job. He made him sound like smarmy, sleazy asshole, but in a fun kind of way.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Yeah, I guess that is his character as a whole. He's an ass. That sums up so many characters from the show. They're assholes, but you love to watch them. They're fun assholes.
Yeah, totally.
One thing I don't get, I guess it's just another thing of like optimism, is that the final shot of the show is the string on Haruko's guitar is plucked.
Yeah, it's like sort of ringing out.
Yeah, it's very ambiguous, doesn't tell you anything, but it does kind of leave you with this kind of good feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I always like back at the time. Maybe I just felt like maybe they didn't anticipate that a sequel would ever happen, but maybe they're just sort of like leaving like a little thing there, just to sort of like Haruko's presence is still felt, and maybe she might return.
That's the way they should have left it. It's like the Iron Giant at the end.
Are you saying that they should have thrown Naota into the sun or whatever the fucking missile?
No. Conte looks down at him and says, "You stay, I go, no fault."
Speaking of, Superman does show up in FLCL for like a little gag. He just fly out.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, there's like the I can't remember the context, but you see the outside of the house is like jumping around and stuff, and like a bunch of stuff starts flying out of there, and like Superman just like flies out of there for like 4 or 5 frames. Like,
is it in the first episode with the hospital? No, it's not the hospital part. I think I know what the scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know. I haven't read the manga, but do you guys mind spoilers for the manga?
Yeah, go ahead.
I read it years ago, but yeah.
Okay. So spoilers.
I didn't even imagine the manga was that much different from the anime. I always assumed that it was just a straight up adaptation.
From what I hear, it's pretty different. Like, it kind of hits similar beats.
Yeah, that's kind of what I remember. Like,
it's kind of like alternate take on it.
Yeah.
But the manga ends, or so I've heard. I haven't read it, so I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong, JD. If I'm wrong, don't tell me and make me look stupid, please.
I wouldn't dream of it.
But I heard the manga ends with Haruko actually leaves her Vespa behind for him, and he's like desperately trying to like get it to work to get back to her. And it's like a much more depressing downer ending.
Ew. Yeah.
Like, it's not like this hugely depressing ending, but it does kind of end off on a bummer note where he's like just desperately trying to get back to her to the point where his fingers are bleeding, trying to get this Vespa to work again.
That is really like, yeah, I mean, just in comparison, yeah, much more of a downer ending.
Yeah, I'm much more into the anime ending.
Yeah.
Ending.
Show.
The end of it.
Yeah.
Nothing else afterward. But yeah, that's fully coolly. JD, I don't know if we did a super good job clearing things up, but did we clear up a little bit at least?
I mean, a little bit. I guess it kind of breaks. I mean, I think you did a good job explaining it. I mean, I think I got the gist of it a little bit.
It's kind of some big points that and like overall the whole thing is more of an experience than a very straightforward story. But once you kind of get you get the Cliff Notes version of it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is that. I get it. I get what's happened.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say, oh, you should go watch it again now that we told you. But I do feel like when I was reading up on it, like I was trying to do a mix. I didn't want to like read too much about what it's all about while it was going, but I would look at wiki articles as the episode was going. I would pause and read up on certain things that weren't so clear. And then once I read it and then watched the episode, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now it's clear.
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of a show you gotta do some research in. I mean, if people want to look into it.
If you would like to know more, yes, there's supplemental
It's kind of a thing you do kind of need to, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? Okay, now I get it. Now I'm clear. Good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this time is the closest I've come to really getting it. But I like that there's still some things in there that aren't super clear. I like that there's things where I can just be like, oh, I wonder what that means.
Yeah, and that's always a very valid, like, nothing needs to be totally explained. There can be an air of mystery, and you can still enjoy it without having to completely explain everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you have those beats in your head, you can pick up on them a little more. Like for the longest time, I didn't realize that in those last couple episodes, Amuro basically just totally spells out exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
He tells Naoto that, look, kid, this is what she's doing. This is what's going on. Even as a kid, this show is just so all over the place and sensory pummeling. Even as they tell you exactly what's happening, you're still like, I don't know can you say this like one word at a time, please?
It's not just a sensory overload; it's a sensory pummeling.
Yeah, just give me a fucking second here, okay?
It's a sensory assault.
I'm trying to make sense of this.
He punches you in the face and kicks you in the nuts.
Just keeps on going.
Who is Haruko again?
What's a Fooly Cooly?
I don't know what these letters are. But yeah, Fooly Cooly, one of my favorite things on this stupid, awful planet. The first season, anyway. Should we go into the sequel seasons a little more?
Well, I mean, you said you only watched 3 out of the 12 episodes.
I think we should save the sequels, whether they exist or not, for another episode.
I guess.
If you would like to see us touch upon what may or may not exist of an FLCL sequel, leave a comment in the box below.
I'll entice you one further. If you want to hear Dustin squirm for about an hour.
This episode was me saying how much I love something. I couldn't stop. I can't gush about this first season enough. If you want the exact opposite reaction, let us
It will be just as long.
Yeah.
This episode has gone on a while, but that's fine.
Yeah,
this went on a lot longer than I.
So while the plot of Fooly Cooly may still be somewhat of a mystery to us, what isn't a mystery is that this is the end of the episode.
Yeah, I have a lot of love for this show, and I always will, despite anything that might come after.
Right. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for bearing with us through this episode. I know it was a long. Dustin and Matt, you guys clearly have a lot of passion for this show, so I was more than happy to let you guys just talk as much as you need to.
Yeah, this is like the one thing I really wanted to know I wanted to sound like I knew what I was talking about. Sorry if I didn't, people listening.
I think you did a fantastic job, Dustin.
Yeah,
fuck what anyone else says.
Never mind. I don't feel sorry. Fuck you guys.
He's the smartest. He has the biggest brain.
Yeah, sorry. That's just the way it is. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm right. I am Mr. Fooly Cooly. I know what it is.
We'll get you a shirt that says that.
They do. I've wanted I've had Fooly Cooly shirts on my Amazon wish list for the past 3 Christmases in a row, and I never get one.
No, Dustin, it's a shirt that says Mr. Fooly Cooly on it.
I am Mr. It says eat, sleep, Fooly Cooly, repeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Dustin, I'll get you a shirt for Christmas.
It's a Fooly Cooly thing. You wouldn't understand.
Right. Well, guys, before we go, I just want to remind everybody that you can interact with us further if you'd like to by following our Facebook and Twitter and joining our Discord if you'd like. The links for which are in the description of this episode. And if you're not already doing so, we are available on most major streaming platforms if you'd like to take us on the go. So guys, thank you for being here and talking at length about Fooly Cooly, and I thank the audience for tuning in this week. So that does it for us, and we'll catch you all again next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
It takes an idiot to do cool things. That's what makes them cool.
Cool on cool things. Hey.
Thanks for listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the show. Join our Discord to chat with us, and subscribe to our Patreon for some cool bonuses. Links are in the description. We'll see you next time.